Everyone. Welcome back to my channel, CorpsmanJ Reacts. I'm Jason, and today we're going to be reacting to a video from another creator that I found a while ago, Mr. Terry History. He is a high school history teacher. He's reacted to a ton of other videos related to history, including Oversimplified, Blue Jay, and even The Fat Electrician. He actually has a few original pieces of content, and this is one of them. It is called World War One explained perfectly in under 7 minutes. So we're going to see this and see how he does. He's a history teacher. I think it should be pretty informative and pretty straightforward. So let's get into it.
The 20th century, new technologies, the promise of a bright future, and a whole lot of people wanting to overthrow their governments. From 1905 to 1911, revolutions popped up like poorly planned TikTok trends, starting in Russia and then Turkey, Mexico, and China. While these uprisings made for some great drama, they were largely local affairs. But then came one revolution with global aspirations. Enter Serbia and its mission to unite all Serbs under one roof. Spoiler alert, that roof was the entire Balkan Peninsula, and everyone else wasn't thrilled about it. In 1903, Serbia killed off its least popular king, Alexander, and decided democracy sounded fun, fueled by national.
I like it. He's funny. Um, Throwing in little jokes about TikTok trends and cute.
zeal. They started stirring things in Bosnia-Herzegovina to prevent a full-on family reunion of
Say that 3 times fast. Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Probably messed it up.
Serbs. Austria-Hungary invaded Bosnia in 1908. Fast forward to 1913, and a group of 11 Serbs, including high-ranking army officials and government officials, thought, what better way to solve our problems than a good old-fashioned secret society? Thus, the Black Hand was born. And they weren't just sitting around playing Fortnite, they were planning assassinations. And boy, did they succeed. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was supposed to enjoy a nice, peaceful visit to Sarajevo. But the Black Hand had other plans. First, one of their conspirators threw a grenade at his car. It missed, but it hit a nearby car. The Archduke went to visit the injured, and by some cruel twist of fate ended up right near another conspirator who promptly shot him and his wife. Tragic, yes, but also pretty unlucky for everyone involved afterward. Austria-Hungary, furious about the assassination, demanded Serbia hand over the perpetrators. Serbia, firmly sticking to their no snitching policy, refused. Austria-Hungary then
Snitches get stitches.
declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. World War I was now officially on. Now, Serbia, the tiny landlocked nation and home of Nikola Jokic, the GOAT, wasn't the obvious candidate for starting a global war, but because European alliances were basically a complicated web of if you mess with them, I'll mess with you, war quickly spread like a viral meme of someone getting hit in the junk. Russia, while not formally allied with Serbia, decided to back them up. Meanwhile, Germany and Austria-Hungary, old pals since 1882, decided it was time to go to war with Russia and France. Then Germany, in a rather subtle move, invaded Belgium, which meant their friend Great Britain had to get involved. Belgium had been minding its own business, thank you very much. Germany, having carefully studied the art of war by Googling how to win a war against France and Russia, developed a strategy called the Schlieffen Plan, which involved charging through Belgium to quickly take Paris, and therefore France, all before Russia could even finish its probably gross breakfast. France, not to be outdone, had Plan 17, which involved winning back territories lost to Germany in 18.
Plan 17. So what happened to Plan 1 through 16? I would say comment down below if you think you know.
71. Needless to say, both plans epically failed. The war turned into a long, drawn-out trench battle where everyone dug in and made themselves as miserable as possible for years. Trench warfare was brutal, largely because of the stalemate that the new machine guns brought. The Battle of Ypres in 1914, the first year of the war, saw 130,000 Germans and 58,000 British soldiers go down in a month of fighting. And that's not even counting the French losses, which were catastrophic. But hey, at least the soldiers got to enjoy the lovely experience of trench foot, being shelled into oblivion, and to hear the obviously made up hookup stories that that annoying soldier in your platoon, tells everybody. Things
Yep, that one guy. And he probably never even touched a woman, let alone looked at one.
didn't improve in 1915, and the Germans thought, hey, how about using poison gas to get the enemy out of their trenches? And thus, the first effective use of chlorine gas sent thousands of French soldiers coughing and choking to their deaths. Meanwhile, in the east, Russia, still struggling with the whole army logistics thing, was getting steamrolled. In August 1914, the Russian Second Army was surrounded at Tannenberg, and the Germans captured about 90,000 Russians. The whole thing was a huge disaster for the Russians, but hey, at least it gave them plenty of time to strategize. And by strategize, I mean get absolutely crushed by the Germans. And let's not forget the global theater. While Europe was busy killing each other, the French and British took a break to invade German colonies in Africa. Meanwhile, the Ottomans, ever the opportunist, joined the Central Powers in 1914. The British, seeking to protect their interests in the Middle East, did what they do best: invade. In January 1917, the Germans made a bold move to starve out Great Britain by declaring unrestricted submarine warfare, meaning they would sink any ship approaching Britain. This strategy had some unintended consequences, though, like, say, angering the United States. The Germans had already angered the US by sinking the passenger ship the Lusitania in 1915, but they weren't finished. In 1917,
Again, going to the whole adage of don't mess with America's boats. Doesn't matter if it's a civilian boat, a military boat, don't mess with our boats.
the infamous Zimmerman telegram, where Germany tried to get Mexico to fight the US in exchange for land, was intercepted by the British. The US said, yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's go back, because that cartoon caricature thing would be so wrong in 2025. So let's go back. Here it is.
To fight the US in exchange for land was intercepted by the British.
Wow. Just it was 1917, over 100 years ago, and that's just was wrong.
British. The US said, yeah, that's enough, and declared war on April 6, 1917. By June 1917, American troops were flooding into France, and the US Army grew from a modest 500,000 to nearly 3 million in just over a year. The influx of troops and supplies turned the tide of the war, leaving Germany scrambling to regain control. Their spring 1918 offensives failed, and by October 4th, the Allies were on the attack. After 1,600 days of chaos, the war finally ended on November 11th, 1918. This was very thoughtful to help future history students so they can easily remember that the war ended on the 11th day of the 11th month, and yes, at 11 a.m. The casualties.
Very, very convenient. Also, it was Dan Daly's birthday, if I'm not mistaken. It's in the Fat Electricians video.
Were staggering. Millions dead, wounded, and missing, and even more civilians who had no business being involved also perished. Despite the promises of peace, the Treaty of Versailles, signed in June 1919, was anything but that. Germany was forced to accept blame, pay billions in reparations, and deal with territorial losses. They also lost Alsace-Lorraine again, and had their military severely restricted. And because the world loves a good irony, the League of Nations was established to prevent future wars. Spoiler, it didn't. In the end, the treaty
He might say it here, but the treaty is very one-sided to Germany, and in fact, Japan too. Japan was an ally, and they weren't even given a seat at the table, pretty much. They were completely left out. They could have had a bunch of Germany's colonies, didn't really get that much. So you see, flash forward a few decades, how Imperial Japan would come about because of this.
sowed the seeds for another conflict, as the bitterness left behind by the peace settlement laid the groundwork for World War II. It gave the famous angry mustache man and his buddies plenty of reasons to become popular in Germany in the years following. And so, remember that history often repeats itself, and it did this time with a much larger and even more disastrous sequel.
Hmm. Pretty good. One more thought. It's history doesn't necessarily repeats, it rhymes. You know, certain things do kind of sound or seem the same because there's only so many times you can be that predictable. Coming up, my final thoughts. Thoughts very good from Mr. Terry. Um, Pretty clear and concise, nice summary. Of course, it's because it's 7 minutes, it doesn't include everything. I hope I was able to add a few points he didn't add in there. And it's a good way to introduce someone who hasn't learned much about World War One first and kind of watch that. And then they can do other videos or get into it and kind of understand the history a lot better. And it does indeed lay the groundwork for what happens in a mere, I think, 3 decades time frame, pretty much. There is a History Channel documentary called The World Wars. Um, you know, with other than the flare dramatics, it's actually pretty decent History Channel miniseries following uh, key people, Mr. Mustache Man, FDR, Churchill, and the like over the course of both world wars. If you can find it, check it out. You may have to download it or subscribe to a History Channel or something like that. But it was really good. Look forward to seeing another one of his videos. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. The link for his original content will be down below in the description. And until then, Semper Fi, Semper Fortis, carry on.